You're so sappy today.
I'm super sappy today. I think it's because I didn't get much sleep.
Okay, let's get moving.
All right. Well, welcome to the Solo Moviegoers Club. This is a very special episode. Kaya and I are actually together.
Woo!
And we're driving. This is the Solo Moviegoers Club solo podcast. As you all know, the Solo Moviegoers Club is a podcast in which me, Sean, and my daughter, Kaya, watch the same movie in a theater alone, and then we meet here to talk about it. However, this is the end of our first season, and this episode's completely different. In this episode, we are driving together to go see...
We're going to my hair appointment, first of all.
We're going to Kaya's hair appointment, which is an hour and a half away from where I live, where she used to live, which is about how high maintenance she is. And then
we woke up very early for this.
We woke up very early, 4:45.
Yeah.
And, this is a little crooked. That's okay. And then my parents happen to live as well there, so we're going to see them in the city where this haircut place is. So we're on the road, and we're going to be doing this podcast. Lock in. So in this edition, I don't think I said this yet, this is not just different because we're driving. This is different because we're going to talk about our favorite movies of 2024. So this is each of our top 5 movies that came out in 2024. We'll talk about some other things too, but that's the basis for it, is our top 5. I also have to say the audio quality might sound a little different for people who are just listening, because we're doing it on these little mics clipped to our shirts, as opposed to doing it on our podcast mics. I feel really weird not talking into a podcast mic right now. Do you?
Yeah, I do too. I feel like it's not going to pick up, but whatever. We'll see what happens. Trial.
Yeah, trial. Sorry, you might hear the car screaming at me occasionally. We have GPS on. And I apologize for everybody watching, because this is a little crooked, but I'm not going to try to fix it, the angle, while I'm driving.
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Said like a professional. With no further ado, Kaya, lean into your top 5.
Okay, so should I start with the honorable mention first? Because, okay, I feel like I'm going to. This year was really weird for movies for me. Like, I went through like a 6 or 7 month phase where I didn't watch anything at all. Like, didn't go to the theater, didn't go, like, even... Whoa,
that's a turkey.
Whoa.
That is a turkey. The turkeys are flying across the highway.
We almost hit them. Okay. That was nuts. I don't like birds.
Have you ever seen turkeys fly?
No. They attack. I've seen them run.
That was crazy. We just saw 3 turkeys fly
so
over
big.
the expressway.
Are you
they
sure
were
that
huge.
was a turkey?
100% positive those were turkeys.
Yeah, what I was saying. Yeah, I just went through like a movie hiatus, so I feel like I didn't watch very many movies until like the end of the year, like July. But before we started this podcast, and when we would talk about movies, I talked a lot about Twisters. Honestly, it wasn't an amazing movie, but I enjoyed the experience of going to see it, and I love Glenn Powell, so that's my honorable mention.
We went to see that together.
We did?
Yeah. We saw Twisters together.
Oh, yeah, we did. No, it was such a good experience. Yeah, that's probably why, because I saw it with someone.
Not because you saw it with me?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Okay, now I remember we got out of the movie and we just like laughed about it because it was so silly. It was like a Sharknado type.
And we sat next to a guy that I knew.
Yes. Oh my God, that was that movie. Okay. Sometimes I forget. From the bottom, we have Heretic. Not that it like was the worst. Like, I loved that movie, but there were like quite a few really good movies. And then The Substance, of course. And then I have Anora at 3. 2, this was very hard for me. There were 2 movies that like really, really did it for me this year. But I put Love Lies Bleeding as number 2. And for my number 1, I said Gladiator 2.
Nice. Okay, so interestingly, Heretic is on my list. Anora is on my list. I think Heretic might be 5 on mine.
Okay.
The Substance I almost put on. It didn't quite make it.
Okay.
It's definitely an honorable mention for me.
Yeah.
The Substance is really, really close. Anora, obviously, like, I think that's probably on almost anybody who has seen it's top 5.
Yeah.
I didn't see Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah, and I wanted you to see it so bad.
I need to see it. I feel like this is a thing that happens too. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but sometimes if I don't see a movie in a theater right when it comes out, I'm not watching that movie for like a couple of years on streaming. Like I didn't see Saltburn until, I don't know, April of 2024.
Crazy. That's nuts.
Because I feel like I've lost, like, if it's in the theater, I need to go see it. If
Yeah.
it's not in the theater, I can stream it whenever. I can stream it years from now. So sometimes you miss out. So yeah, Love Lies Bleeding, I need to remember to catch that.
That was definitely something, that movie specifically was one that made me go see movies alone again. Like, that 6-month period. In 2023, I was seeing movies alone like no one's business. Like, it was my favorite thing to do. And then I just kind of stopped. But Love Lies Bleeding ramped it up for me again. It was so good.
Yeah, also, we usually talk about the coffee we drank during the movie, but we are drinking our favorite iced Americano on
big.
Earth.
It's a huge coffee. I need this much coffee.
And I felt it's from a place called Birmingham Roast. We actually know the barista, or she might be the manager, Lydia, and I felt really bad because she drew a bunch of nice drawings on the to-go bag, and I didn't notice until we got in the car, and Kaya noticed, and so I didn't say thank you. So I'm saying publicly thank you. Shout out Birmingham Roast. Sponsor.
No,
Coffee
they
sponsor.
should. I've been going there since, like, COVID, and they all, like, knew me. Like, all the original employees and the owner, they always say hi to me. They know me. I went there every day.
I actually think that's a part of life that is underrated, is knowing the people at the establishments that you go to.
Yes.
I think about our society today, and I think about, like, small villages of people, like medieval England or something, okay?
Yeah.
And you think about a small village, like, everybody, like, you knew the butcher. The butcher was your friend, like your family friend, or your enemy. But either way, there was a relationship there.
Yeah.
And now I feel like people are so disconnected from the people around them that you're not really living in a society. You're just sharing space with people you don't know, which is weird. I need to know, like, the people that I see regularly, whether it's at a coffee shop, a movie theater, at the guy at the meat counter at the grocery store that we go to, check out people. Like, I need to know these people and have conversations with them.
Yeah, I always do. I always make a point to do that. And, like, when I was little, the people, literally, this is crazy. We lived in Los Feliz when I was, like, 10, and we used to go to this specific restaurant, Greenleaves, all the time. It's my favorite restaurant. It's our family's favorite restaurant. And the owner who works there, he still asks me about, like, my parents and how they're doing and stuff. And that's crazy because it's been, like, 10 years.
It has been 10 years since
that era.
We have lived, as a whole family, lived in LA.
Yeah.
And they asked Kaya how we're doing because we knew these people so well.
Yeah.
And you carry on the tradition. We're really dropping sponsors today. I want, like, Greenleaves. Greenleaves is no joke, though. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Not for any other purpose other than just our own thoughts. That there are a lot of really good, super hyped vegan restaurants in LA. Crossroads being kind of like the main one, right?
I don't even love Crossroads, sorry.
And I do. I dig Crossroads. I think it's really good, but it's hard to get a reservation. It's mad expensive. Greenleaves in Los Feliz, oh my God. It's so good.
Now people are going to like it and want to go there. It's the best restaurant ever. It heals my soul.
I've got a friend who I used to go there with sometimes, and, like, I think the last time I went there, I texted him just a picture of one of their vegan chicken wings, and he knew exactly what it was, like, with no context. He hadn't been there in a couple of years either, because it's so good and so instantly memorable. But anyway, back to the movies. So do you have anything else? Do you have any other, like, 2024, any movies you wanted to see this year that you didn't see?
There's a bunch of movies that I wanted to see and didn't see. I also wanted to put Chimp Crazy in there, but that's kind of like a series. And notice I didn't put anything that was like a streaming movie because it's not the same. Like, I was going through my letterbox of what I had watched this year, and the few streaming ones that came out this year specifically, I was like, this, like, didn't do anything for me. Like, it wasn't, I forgot about it until I looked at my list.
What about Mr. Crockett?
Well, that's different because that experience traumatized me as a whole. But, like, everything else, I don't know. It just didn't stick.
Yeah, I have, as a person who has spent the last 2 years making streaming movies, the next movie that we're making for theaters. Of course, if a streamer offers us an ungodly amount of money to sell, we might. But streaming movies do not have the same cultural effect as theatrical movies. They just don't,
No.
ever.
No.
Like, what was the last one that did? Bird Box?
That was maybe
That was 2019.
something during like
No,
COVID?
no movies took off during COVID. What took off during COVID was Tiger King.
yeah.
Streaming series, bingeable streaming series are what work on streaming. Movies, like, I've gone back and forth on this a lot over the past few years. I thought filmmakers were being too precious to demand where people should see their movies, but I totally get it. The viewing experience is better in a theater, and that's the reason. Even people say they want to watch movies at home, they want to stream movies. You don't care about something the same way, as if you also don't focus on it the same way. As
Yeah.
we realized in this past year, I had trouble remembering details of Let's Start a Cult
Yeah.
because I was doing other things while I was watching the
Uh-huh.
movie. And it's just not the same as committing 90 minutes or 3 hours, depending on what the movie is, to sitting in that space to hold space.
Holding space.
Yes, you have
We
to
are holding
hold
space.
space for the movies.
Yeah.
That should be your next T-shirt after Letterboxd Famous.
Yeah.
Is hold space for the movies. But you
Well,
really do.
yeah.
You need to. I think that's like a life philosophy thing. It's anything that you do with intention
Hmm.
is a better experience.
For
Like,
sure.
multitasking sucks. It's not really possible. I'm not really driving right now. Multitasking sucks. It's impossible. You can't watch a movie and do something else. Like, this whole idea of watching a movie and being on a second screen, nonsense. You're not watching the movie. You need to
Yeah.
put your phone down. You need to be paying attention.
This is why, like, I want to have a documentary in a theater come out soon, because I feel like that would really do something for me spiritually.
Yeah, my experience with documentaries, I've only had one documentary that was like a proper theatrical release where people could go buy tickets and go see it.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly limited release, but it was fun. I went to some of the screenings, and then I've some of the other documentaries I've made have premiered in theaters, and then they do like these educational screenings.
Yeah.
Where I'll go to colleges and people will watch them.
Uh-huh.
And it's really fun. You engage really deeply with the students
Yeah.
as they see the movie because they're watching it and they're not distracted. They're not allowed to be on their phones.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, there was just a cop. I don't want to get...
I knew we were like looking down.
We're going a little fast because...
Not really, though.
Not
It's
too fast. I
fine.
can't really put that on record. But yeah, we're trying to not be late for this hair appointment, and I had to stop and mess with this camera. And I am a person who professionally uses cameras. I have this crooked shot, which is driving me crazy because I forgot to bring an extender for the car mount for the camera.
It's on the counter.
It was on the counter. Mumsy sent us a picture of it sitting
Yeah.
on the counter. I digress.
If
So,
you make movies?
allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. So theaters, and it's doing things with intention, like even making your food with intention, eating your food with intention, doing things, having conversations with people. Like, I just think, just to go, wow, I'm on a soapbox this morning, but
Yeah.
I think in terms of like the way that, even like that's what it is, like knowing the people in the community that you interact
Yeah.
with, that's living with intention.
It's romanticizing your life. That's what the youth would call it today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, romanticizing your life.
Uh-huh.
There should be, Taylor Swift song aside, there should be a new romantics movement, because I
Yeah.
feel like huge portions of life has become so, I don't know, like rote and sterilized that we need, as we enter this era, I am a firm believer that AI is not going to destroy humanity. I think it's going to create a lot of potential benefits. I think there's going to be some drawbacks. It's going to cause some problems. It's going to be a little rough getting through this next era of generative AI. But I think that have we talked about fully automated luxury communism on this podcast?
No.
Okay, so people thought during the Industrial Revolution, the biggest concern was if we don't have to do the work that these machines can do, what are people going to do with all their spare time?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do if we're not tilling the fields? If we're not, the first big thing was like the loom. People thought that the loom was going to, what will people do if they're not, I don't know, looming,
Yeah.
weaving anymore? I'm totally brain melting right now. What's the term for somebody who doesn't want to use a piece of technology? A Luddite.
Oh,
The original, the Luddite movement was originally, they were out smashing looms, automatic looms in the street, because they didn't want to take the jobs away from weavers and seamstresses. And the truth is, every time that these things have happened, that these new technologies have come into play, it gets a little hairy for a minute as we figure out the labor side of things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it creates abundance, and the economy grows, and people live in more abundant ways. I think the same thing will happen with AI. And then the question is, so this fully automated luxury communism was an idea that, once we get through the Industrial Revolution, and once we get into essentially like a Jetson-style space age where the robots do everything for us, you might work like 4 hours a week, and the rest of the time there's like some sort of universal basic income, and you're just chilling. And like, I think that a lot of people would really struggle with that. And I think that's where you need some sort of techno-utopian new romantic movement where people really take advantage of the fact that I don't have to work as much. I don't have to do as much.
Yeah.
Where am I going to find that meaning in my life? Where am I going to find those connections? And I think that without practicing intentionality, you'll find yourself completely lost. So I'll try to jump off the soapbox. Apparently this is a thing that happens when I drive. We're learning.
Yeah. This happens every time.
Kai and I were talking about how our main bonding between us.
This is what I thought.
This is what she thought is driving.
Yeah. Driving and running. Like, we're in a transitional thing. Like, I feel like we talk all the time. We talk every day a bunch. Like, I don't feel like there's a wall there. But when we're driving and when we're running, there's like so many moving parts, and we're talking about the most random things, and it's the best, I think.
But I also feel like I'm notorious in our family for telling stories I've told hundreds of times.
You're getting better, though, I think.
I think I'm getting better, but I also find that in our driving and in our running, if it's more than like a 45-minute run or drive, we each usually bring something new to the table that we didn't know previously about each other.
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
Oh, I'm way on my soapbox. So yeah, that's a message. My end of the year message. Everybody gets emotional and sentimental at the end of the year. My end of the year, end of the season, end of the first season of the podcast message is that, like, this connecting, the way Kai and I connect when we run together or drive together is very meaningful, but also the way that we've connected on this podcast, for me, has been a really fun way for us to do something even though we're 2,600 miles apart most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's been one of the highlights of my year. Like, I always look forward to our podcast.
Me too.
It's very fun. And so I think that I would encourage people to find ways to connect in longer form with the people they love, rather than just texting back and forth in the occasional 5-minute phone call.
You're so sappy today.
I'm super sappy today. I think it's because I didn't get much sleep.
Probably. Well, I think about it all the time. Like, I have some friends, and it's taken a while. I never really had many friends in high school, so like my parents were like my best friends, and I still feel like they are. So it's just like another way for us to yap. It's like an excuse. It's like a work excuse, and it's fun.
Yeah, if no one ever listened to this, I would still want to do it.
Same.
But obviously we want people to listen to it. Speaking of that, not having many friends, rule of the universe. The less friends you have in high school,
the better.
The better your life will be.
I did not peak in high school, I will tell you that.
I haven't peaked yet. I'm still working on it.
We're good.
But yeah, I think it's that if you currently are in high school and you have a lot of friends, you should be worried. You should reevaluate your life. If you're in high school and you don't have any friends, you should know that this is a very good thing.
Better.
This means, it gets better, and that if high school is the best part of your life, what's the next 60, 80, however many years? That's ugly, man. That's really ugly. This camera's getting so crooked, it's driving me absolutely insane. Can you fix it a little?
No.
Are we stuck? Is this are we living with this? Am I gonna have because we're already kind of tight, and the only way to
the
fix it,
suction cup.
the only way to fix it is to crop it in post and then move it.
It's fine.
Okay, it's fine.
It's okay.
You guys can deal. This is our first mobile episode.
Yeah.
The same way that I listened to one of our old episodes, our audio has gotten so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
The same way our audio is getting better, our video is going to level up in the new year and in the new season.
Yeah.
And our mobile, the next mobile version you see of this, we'll set it up properly. I was trying to set this up at like midnight last night. My top 5?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh yeah, I listen to so many podcasts, and a lot of them are like, well, most of them are like pop culture girlies and stuff, and a lot of the time they're just talking about movies that they've been seeing recently. Like, I don't know, like there's like a movie surge right now and talking about going to see movies alone. There's a specific influencer who went to go see a movie alone, and she said like she went in all scared, like I hope no one like recognizes me, and then she came out like so happy she got to see this movie without looking at her phone, without any distractions.
Who?
Her name is Paige. She was on Canceled. I love the Canceled podcast. I look like I love the Canceled podcast. But yeah, she was like, I used to do this kind of stuff all the time alone, and I was totally cool with it, but I did it for the first time in years, and she's like, it was truly the best.
And just so I'm not being a bad example here, I am trying not to look at my phone that much. I am looking at it a little, but the car is on self-drive, so I'm not...
We need a disclaimer here.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
I am not texting or reading emails and driving.
Yeah.
So, okay, my favorite top 5 of the year. Civil War.
Yeah.
Loved Civil War. Can't wait for Alex Garland's new movie. He's got some bangers coming out. Civil War, I think he said, is the last movie he's going to direct for a while. Mm-hmm. But he wrote 28 Days Later, and 28 Years Later is coming out later this year. The trailer's the most watched horror trailer of all time. It looks insane. Have you watched this trailer yet?
No.
You have to. It looks amazing. It's a really well-edited trailer.
I really want to see Civil War, too.
Civil War is amazing. Civil War is gnarly. It's really, really good. I love everything that Alex Garland does, and this one is, I think, sort of flew under the radar. I don't think it did as well as was anticipated. I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it did as well as anticipated, and if so, I think it's because it's too real. The prospect of a civil war in America, I think, was kind of a joke a few years ago, and I didn't think it was that much of a joke going into this election. I think unless this country figures things out soon, we are probably heading towards some sort of unrest in the next decade, but I hope not. But anyways, great movie, really loved it. Heretic, that was on your list as well. We both really loved Heretic. It's awesome. As you can tell from my soapboxing and pontificating this morning, I'm down for a long conversation about topics I'm interested in, and that's what Heretic was, as we discussed in our episode. Anora, both of our list. Go see it if you haven't seen it. Anora's great. Anora should probably be up for a bunch of Oscars. I don't know if it will. Maybe it'll end up in the Indie Spirits instead. Yeah. But it deserves everything it gets wherever it gets them. I think it won Cannes. So they're probably good on awards already. But it's an awesome movie. You should go see. Okay, here's my controversial one. Shogun, streaming series. But I put it in my top because it's as cinematic as anything.
That's what everyone says.
That was in the theater. It was just beautiful and lush. Every so often, there's something that gets made that was on my deep list of something I would love to make. And this was that for me. Somebody bought me the Shogun book for I think my 20th birthday.
Wow.
And I was always into basically anything martial arts, samurai as a kid, very deeply into it. And so one of my friends who knew this, I had a ninja suit around this time that I would wear occasionally. Hand and foot spikes, I would climb trees, I had a grappling hook. I still have these things. I keep them in a black bag, just in case you ever need a full ninja suit, grappling hook.
Do you actually
I swear on my life, I do. Hand and foot spikes.
See, we're learning things.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I've got the split toe boots. I have a ninja to-go bag.
I knew you always had nunchucks and weird stuff, but wow.
Yeah, nunchucks, swords, full tang katanas. I'm actually pretty good with nunchucks. Secret talent of mine. But I'm good with any kind of spinning thing.
Yeah.
Like those crystal sticks.
Oh my god, yes! Renaissance Fair.
Yeah, I can show up some Renaissance Fair people with some crystal sticks, even though I roll up dressed like a civilian and surprise them. I Loved Shogun. I thought it was amazing. There are some moments in it that are as, like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon level, beautiful, martial arts adjacent Japanese cinema moments in it. It was just, like, I love it. So I don't think it's that controversial. Okay, this one, this was a really tough decision for me. I think my favorite movie of the year is, again, a movie I wish I would have made because the concept is brilliant, the execution is brilliant. Late Night with the Devil. Okay. I don't know how familiar you are with this movie. It's incredible. It is... It's an exorcism. Well, no, it's a girl who has had an exorcism performed on her, who claims she still has the demon inside of her, is on TV live in the 70s. And
this came out last year, by the way.
This was not 23. This was 24.
This was 23.
Maybe at a festival. When did it come out in theaters? It had to come out in theaters in 24.
Okay, yeah, 24.
Okay. Whew. I was about to question.
I was going to give you so much
everything I knew.
That.
It's awesome. David Dastmalchian's incredible as the lead, as the TV host. It ties into, like, Bohemian Grove and occultism and obviously the exorcism angle of it I found really interesting. The 1970s look and feel, the way it's captured. Like, there's kind of a behind the scenes crew that's working in the background. You get to see people off stage, but most of it takes place on the live screen. Like, you're seeing a lot of what the people would be seeing at home if they were watching this unfold live.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. It's single location, of course, and it's a movie I really, really, really wish I would have thought of and that I would have made.
I didn't see, like, any, like, trailers or anything for this. I didn't even know that it was a thing.
It was big. So IFC, the
Hulu?
distributor, it was released in theaters and it did really well. It was IFC's highest grossing movie in history.
I heard nothing about it.
This actually was in that period when you weren't watching movies, though. I think it was in the spring. And
I was watching nothing.
And it then went to Shudder.
Oh.
So unless you have a Shudder subscription, you wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
Shudder would be a really good sponsor for this podcast, too.
Shudder.
By the way, I'm going to give you guys a shout. Shudder. Nick Lazo, there's an email coming your way about sponsoring this podcast. I have a list of movies I need to see this year. I feel like so many good movies came out that I haven't been able to see them all. I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about Nickel Boys.
Yeah, same.
I can't believe I didn't see Megalopolis in theaters. That feels like a real loss to me because I know there was, like, a live component where sometimes somebody in the audience would perform a moment of the movie.
It got a lot of hate, though, I feel like.
Yes.
A lot of people did not enjoy.
A lot of people did not like it, but I like divisive movies.
Yeah.
Like, also, if you're Francis Ford Coppola and you're selling $100 million in shares of your super successful wine company to go make this movie, I feel like whoever's bold enough to do that and has made the movies he's made over his career, like, even if it's a miss, it's going to be so deeply personal and weird that it's probably going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, probably.
I also need to see The Brutalist. That's just coming out right now.
Yeah.
But I think that looks really good. I like that dude's other movies. Childhood of a Leader was, like, a really underrated, really incredible film from a couple years ago. I didn't see Longlegs, which feels like a glaring omission. From, like, all the horror movies I saw in theaters this year, this is supposed to be one of the best, and I didn't see it, and I'm upset about that.
I feel like I'm a new horror movie watcher now. Like, what did I just watch? I just watched X for the first time, and I loved it. Normally, I'm not into anything scary, just because it doesn't scare me. It doesn't do anything for me, but I've grown to love it a little bit more. Even
if they're not scary, I think some of the best movies being made today are being made in the horror genre.
All of them, yeah.
It's where interesting ideas are getting Trojan horsed into exciting movies. It shows that your movie can be heady and not boring.
For sure.
And it's able to squeak through because there's a built-in audience for horror. So you're not seeing deeply intellectual dramas other than maybe The Brutalist being made today. Like, they're so rare. There's like one or two a year.
True.
It's the movies that are more interesting on a philosophical level are almost exclusively horror right now, and I think that's so cool. And I also think that horror movies always have had some of the things that they're known for, some of the hallmarks of why we like going to the movies.
Yeah.
Horror movies typically have great music. They typically do interesting things with the way they shoot them. Like, horror movies tend to look really good, at least good horror movies. And there's makeup and effects, and like, think of The Substance.
Yeah.
That, like, a movie like that, like, you...
But I feel like horror is so different now. Like, that's considered like a horror movie.
Horror is different. I just think horror is where it's at this moment. I think
it's the only... I feel like every movie that we've seen could be described as a horror movie.
A lot of them could,
like,
for
even
sure.
Anora. Even Anora.
I guess. There's kidnapping.
Yeah.
It's... I feel like in the 90s, like the era of movies that inspired me to want to make movies, a lot of those, like, historically, like the Aliens and Blade Runners are genre movies. But then the movies that made me think, oh, as like a kid growing up in Michigan, I can do this. Mm-hmm. Like the Reservoir Dogs and the Clerks and the very kind of stereotypical Sundance movies of the 90s and early 2000s. That was what worked then. It was like talky comedies and dramas where it was like cool people who were a little heightened, who were a little more interesting than your friends, who you could hang out with for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can't do that anymore. I don't think. I think it needs to be this heightened experience that draws people into the theater, and I think horror is what's doing that so well, as we've discovered this year. I have some runner-ups, and my runner-ups are very controversial. I've got, like, frosting or something that came from someone. What is that?
I don't know what that is.
What is that?
It appeared out of thin air.
Like orange donut frosting or like something.
Everywhere.
This is what happens when you have children. This is really bizarre. It really came out of nowhere, didn't it? I didn't eat anything like this.
It wasn't there 20 minutes ago.
It wasn't here 2 minutes ago. I don't know what this is. Wow. Okay. My runners-up are like not really movies. So, Chimp Crazy.
Yeah, that would be mine too.
Amazing.
Best
Just amazing viewing experience. Watch Chimp Crazy now. Immediately.
I put you on that. I feel good about that. You like it so much.
You put me on Chimp Crazy, and I put a whole bunch of other people on it. We've talked about it in 4 or 5 podcasts, and I've talked to people in Meet Space or IRL or whatever the kids say these days about it. And also, in that same vein, all the like crypto and finance stocks that have come out this year.
Yeah.
We haven't watched the RazzleCon one yet, which is really disappointing because we were deeply into RazzleCon.
You guys, this was the craziest thing ever right before I moved out. This is like, it was like our obsession, our hyperfixation was RazzleCon, her music videos, her story, her boyfriend.
Everything.
It's wild.
We went deep. With the amount of research we did, we probably should have just made a documentary.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah, there's a couple different, there's a few different high-profile RazzleCon films coming out, and there's at least a few documentaries. I think the first one of them all just hit Netflix.
Yeah.
But there's been so many good, like, scam docs this year, whether it's Bitcon or the Cyberbunker one. It's just, I feel like the financial crime and cybercrime world is so rich for documentaries. And I feel like Max has had a few good ones, then Netflix is just killing it. Like, if Netflix has any sort of... I don't really like the murder porn crime that much. This is not my scene. But which is odd for a dude who loves horror movies. Like, kill people, fake people all day. I'll watch the goriest stuff. Give me Terrifier. Art the Clown was my dream the other night, by the way. But give me Terrifier all day long. Real murder, just not my thing. I can't. I almost did a true crime doc series thing recently and decided not to because I just can't. Other than the one we have, Murder Ballads, which is different. It's a little different. We've got a reason for it. But yeah, I just don't want to see recreations of real people being murdered. It's just sad to me.
I don't like the recreations of those. But we were talking about like the psychological aspect of it. Like, true crime has this very special place in my heart, and I think it is more successful as a podcast rather than like a movie that recreates it because I want to hear about it. I don't necessarily want to see it.
But the financial crimes I can watch because that's really fun. It's like I feel like they've got those big Netflix and Max budgets, They have anybody who's made one of these docs recently is like big budget,
Yeah.
but they've got the money to have pop music and to really like that. To me, when they tie those things into the moment of the culture in which the crime happened, it's really interesting. It's it's nostalgic and fun and all those things. So I really dug all the crypto docs. Here's the other big winner of this year, the press cycle for all of these movies.
Yes.
We talked about this yesterday. After we talked about it, I saw that Felicity Jones is in The Brutalist, and she was talking about the the method dressing that people have been doing for premieres, like Timothy Chalamet as Dylan being the ultimate example. But they were doing this on the Barbie press tour. They were dressing Barbie, but Wicked, everybody does it now. And
press tours are so bad.
That's what Felicity Jones was saying, is that she feels like the press tours of this year have been as interesting as the movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like the movies have been so interesting. I don't think that's quite accurate, but I think the press tours are interesting. It's really funny. I feel like there was this world where people got really sick of what celebrity used to be, but now I feel like everybody's okay with it again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all right, and people are having fun with it. It's not a serious thing.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
It's just a different lifestyle. It's like, I don't know. I feel like celebrities seem a little bit more touchable with the influencer space because they're like sort of meshing and combining. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm so barely in this frame. I need to be more cognizant of doing
no
this.
One needs to look at you.
No one needs to look at me. Any celebrity would be better at finding the frame than I am.
Real. Yeah.
Or influencer, or any human, actually. Just any human with a camera. Yeah. Any human who's been taking selfies, which I haven't been. This is the most selfie I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, the podcast.
Yeah. Other than that, what are some other things that happened? I feel like this was a great year for pop culture, in addition to being a great year for movies.
Yeah.
Well,
we need to, I don't want to go through a rabbit hole because this will be going forever, but like Luigi Mangione, that's like so new and fresh. There's so many things constantly happening with pop culture that it's like I can't even remember things from a month ago.
Yeah, it happens fast. I actually I was telling Kaya, I read a friend of mine. This is crazy. How many days are we out from the Luigi Mangione thing happening?
Less than a week. It has to be.
And one of my friends wrote a feature-length script already based on it, and it's great. It's it's great. It doesn't feel like he wrote it in a week. It feels like he's writing it a year from now with hindsight. Like the details are whatever. Like he researched it really deeply. He's got a lot of interesting detail in there. But what's so interesting is he goes into his psychology. It's what he thinks his psychology. It reads like there was this movie. This is from 2023, but this movie with Sydney Sweeney called Reality Winner.
Yeah.
You familiar with this?
I didn't see it, but yes.
It's this actual woman who I forget exactly what she did. She we text her.
Yeah.
Mumsy is calling. Kai's gonna text her and tell her that we're podcasting. There's this actual woman who worked for, I think, the NSA, some government agency, who leaked information because she thought that these atrocities were being committed by the government, and her name is Reality Winner.
Yeah.
That's such a wild name, such an unbelievable wild name for somebody who ends up in this position and in any position. Just that is the most modern, that is the most contemporary name that I think could exist, is Reality Winner. But anyways, that movie had an interesting tone, and it looked into it took the transcript of her arrest and made it real time, and the movie is a real time what occurred as they were descending upon, the feds were descending upon her and she was getting arrested. And just even though she doesn't say anything beyond what's in the transcript, through the performance you get to see what her psychology was at the time. It's really, really good. But this script felt like a mix between that and a modern era Taxi Driver.
Yeah, I just watched Taxi Driver for the first time. Oh my god, blew my mind. It was so good.
And that is the way he wrote the Luigi Mangione character is Travis Bickle.
Okay.
It's this guy who just was fed up. He had enough with the modern condition, I guess. And the one thing that affected him personally was the healthcare issue.
Yeah.
And he took it really personally. And I think there's an element of crassness to the way people are joking about. Look, everything's funny. Everything's fodder for comedy. So that's not what I think is crass. I think there's a bit of crassness to people that are celebrating the fact that this dude died. because
Yeah.
it's, at the end of the day, it's a human who was murdered. He was assassinated. And that's the justification in the script, by the way, is because his last thing, his like last moral element, he's like, this guy has a family.
Yeah.
And then he realized, well, dictators have families too. World War I started with one bullet.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Which, if you want to ever hear the story of how World War I actually started, the conditions that were there, and the kind of happenstance that ended up with the Archduke getting assassinated, because they tried to kill him and missed, and then, like, the way I remember it is, he gets hungry and goes to a bakery after almost being assassinated, and the assassin happens to be in the bakery, like, roiling over the fact, well, one of the assassins, that he failed. They failed to kill him, and he just shoots him and kills him in the bakery. But Hardcore History, Dan Carlin did an episode, I think it's called The Apocalypse, about World War I, that is mind-blowingly good. But it makes, like, any of these big movements that happen, or like big societal shifts, it's usually one small thing. I don't think it's impossible that this could be the one small thing that that really, people talk a lot about late-stage capitalism, and Warren Buffett has talked about this quite a bit, where, like, yes, there is increasing wealth concentration. That's inevitable within capitalism, because capital begets capital. The way the system works is both through accumulation of the means of production, and also accumulation of resources and compounding interest. People who had just have more and will continue to have more. And it's increasingly expensive to live in the world. And I think people are fed up. I think most people are we talked about this a bit during the Gladiator episode, but I think we're in a weird time. And I think that, but I also thought that the Occupy Wall Street movement was going to turn into something, and it turned into absolutely nothing. So is this a moment that kicks off another kind of...
I also think because of where he came from, too. Like,
wealthy family,
Penn State, like, crazy background. Like, he was so well off, and, like, he sacrificed...
Not Penn State. Penn, the Ivy League one.
Oh, it was Penn.
Yeah.
Okay. Even better.
It's crazy.
He, like, sacrificed his life for this. The memes are great, by the way.
But it was personal to him. He had this horrific back injury. And in the script, I don't know if this is true or not, but in the script, his relatives are like, why don't you get help to pay for this? Like, Grandpa will pay for this. And he won't do it. He just finds it too, like, demeaning and insulting. It's like, that's not the point. The point is that there's a system that allows people to have this happen to them. And I understand why. I genuinely understand why people are celebrating him.
Yeah.
I can understand celebrating the intention behind what he did. I cannot celebrate. I don't think murder is ever justified.
No.
I think he could have had I can't think of exactly how. There's probably a number of ways that he could have had the same impact without killing the guy.
For sure. Like, he could spend the rest of his life outside of prison, like, really working the system.
I mean, this got more attention than that would. There's a ton of people out there doing. There's all I'm sure there's a healthcare version of Aaron Brockovich, but I don't know their name because nobody cares. So,
and it was just so well planned and executed. Like, all of the Easter eggs that he left, his manifesto, his social media, even, like, his friends rioting for him. They're his best friends on social media talking about him and everything that, like, he was about, and, like, his character and stuff. And it's wild.
We have a theory about his top 5 movies. So Kaya pulled up...
Well, there are 4.
Oh, his 4. Sorry, his top 4. Kaya pulled up his top 4 on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Which I think there's a narrative there. I think he planted. So they don't make sense. So first of all, this is relevant to today because 3 of his top 4 came out in 2024.
Yes.
His movies are...
Lorax, Wicked, is it Trap or Trapped?
Trap.
Okay, Trap, and then, what was the other one?
You knew this the other day. Look it up. While you're looking it up, I'll talk about what I think. So, Trap, by the way, is an honorable mention for me. I should have mentioned that. Trap is a M. Night Shyamalan movie. Josh Hartnett plays a serial killer. and they set up a concert for like what that world's Taylor
Charlie
Swift is.
XCX documentary.
Charlie XCX documentary.
He's
Okay,
for the girls.
that didn't come out in 2024. I think
But-
that came out in 22 or 23.
But it was a brat summer, so Charlie XCX is very relevant still.
Yeah, Charlie XCX is relevant. He might have just stumbled upon her documentary this year because he
Yeah.
could have been a brat. That's my theory. My theory is, okay, the Charlie XCX thing is about her dealing with isolation during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and Luigi was isolated because of his back injury.
Yeah.
And I think that Trap is Josh Hartnett's character is they designed this concert. He's a serial killer, and he takes his daughter to this concert. She's a big fan, and they designed this whole concert just to catch him because they can't catch the serial killer, but
Yeah.
they know the serial killer will be there.
I need to see this movie.
It's
by the way.
really good.
Yeah.
And I think that he saw himself as someone, he knew he was going to be in a similar situation where the whole world was trying to catch him after he did this.
Yeah.
I think what's the other one? Not Lorax, but the other one? Wicked is the system, Oz,
Yeah.
is a fraud. The Emperor has no clothes, right?
Uh-huh.
The man behind the curtain, there's no one there, and I think that's the way he looked at society.
Mhm.
And then the Lorax, the only not recent movie,
It
that's
just
the same
checks
thing.
out,
One
yeah.
man against the whole system.
Yeah.
And it is anti-greed,
Mhm.
anti-corruption, pro
live.
little people.
Yeah.
And I think
Not
that
let it die.
what's interesting is, was this just a cinematic expression of his worldview, or did he intentionally put those movies there because he knew people like us would look at that and dissect it?
He totally did. Like, think about his Twitter, his Goodreads, or whatever, and like his manifesto. And then I think he intentionally got caught. Like, he could have been anywhere, and he went to McDonald's and showed his face, and he had the Monopoly money and the 3D gun or whatever in his bag still, like a day later. Like, I think it was all very intentional. And his main book on there was like Ted Kaczynski's book, and he like had a whole review of that.
So, I don't think I have it in me to be an assassin or serial killer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think, I don't know that I would think to intentionally
Oh, no way.
plant these things in advance or like write a manifesto. But I do have to say that if I were to commit some sort of crime or be accused, let's say I'm falsely accused, okay,
Mhm.
of committing some sort of crime like this, it's like North by Northwest,
Yeah.
which I've been watching. Hitchcock for the Holidays on Criterion, by the way. Amazing. It's phenomenal. Everybody should watch every Hitchcock movie, but Hitchcock for the Holidays on Criterion, you should watch that, and Criterion, you should sponsor this podcast.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
The main character in North by Northwest is in a sort of kind of case of mistaken identity, even though he's set up. It's interesting. I won't get into like the machinations of how it works. He didn't kill someone. Everyone thinks he did. He's on the run. That's what would happen to me. I would never kill anybody, but
Yeah.
if I got falsely accused and somebody looked at the books that I've bought on Amazon,
Yeah.
or the things that I've watched on YouTube. I saw this thing yesterday that there was the British Ministry of Culture is concerned about the online viewing habits of young men.
Oh,
Bruh,
yeah.
if somebody would have looked at the things I was downloading on my computer when I was 15, like
Exactly.
Faces of Death,
Yeah.
I absolutely, if they
For sure, yeah.
like horrific stuff, I just had never seen it before. I wanted to see
Yeah.
it. Was it real? I didn't know. It was interesting.
Yeah.
So that for me is a lot of the stuff that's on his reading list, like
Mhm.
the Kaczynski book. I've read that.
Yeah.
Anarchist Cookbook. These
Yeah.
different things. Like, name a book title that has a red flag attached to it. I think myself and millions of other law-abiding citizens have read these things. We're gonna have to pick this up with a part 2.
Jesus Christ.
Kai is going to look different.
No, I'm not.
All right, we'll be back.
People are gonna think that I like would kill someone based on my stance, but whatever.
Me too. You might.
No.
Kai got a haircut. We went and visited my parents. I don't remember what we were talking about. Were we talking about Luigi?
No, we were past Luigi.
We were past Luigi. Were we on the year in pop culture? Were we on how good the press cycles have been? Our energy,
No.
our vibe is probably so much different now. It probably
It's
doesn't
probably
even seem
so
like the
bad.
same podcast.
Yeah.
It's probably bad. I feel like we were in a good flow
We
and now we're out of
were.
it.
But I feel like we ended on kind of a good note.
Did we? Were we done and we didn't realize it? Is that what happened?
Honestly, probably.
We probably look different. Kai's
Yeah.
haircut looks good.
Thank you.
I have sunglasses on now. The light is different. It's facing different. We got a slightly better shot. It's less crooked now.
Slightly better.
I really hope the audio worked earlier because I think this is a good podcast.
Yeah.
And this is a cool idea. I like doing this. If you realize if this didn't work, we're driving somewhere and doing this again
Okay.
while you're here.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we have? We've got some stuff to look forward to. This is, as we've mentioned, the end of our first season. We're going to start our second season. I think the first movie for season 2 is going to be Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch the original and the Werner Herzog version before then.
So I learned that I watched both of those. I thought I just watched the first one. I watched both, hated both, loved
Okay.
the story. They actually just scared me.
Okay.
So I won't be rewatching. But
So they didn't hate them, you're just scared of them.
yeah.
And this one I think is going to be really scary. I think it's going to be
Me
really good.
too.
I can't wait. I feel it comes out Christmas Day, which means it usually comes out a couple days before, right? There's usually like some previews that we can go to.
I mean, it's out in LA.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably out here somewhere very soon. I want to
Yeah.
go see that ASAP. If it's playing while you're still here, we are going to see it while you're still here. But I genuinely feel the way that kids get excited on Christmas to open presents, I feel about seeing Nosferatu.
Yeah. It's definitely the movie that I have anticipated the longest. Like, I remember I wanted to see it last year when there's a little bit of press and buzz on Letterboxd about Nosferatu. No one knew, who was really in it. There were, signs of Lily Rose Depp being in it. But I was so stoked about it. And then that trailer drop, it was crazy. I just know it's going to be good. It can't be bad. It can't.
I don't think it's going to be bad.
I think it'll be another 5 out of 5.
I hope so. What is that director made? The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman?
Okay.
And that's it? Just those three and now this?
I don't know.
And I think this is the movie he's been wanting to make since he was a kid.
Yeah.
This is, for me, my bucket list movie is Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude who made Mr. Robot was going to be making Metropolis into a series, which I think is a terrible idea. Why is it going to be a series? Just, if you're going to remake that world, make it into an epic movie. And I believe that project went away.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to set my sights on remaking Metropolis. That's
your North Star.
That's my midterm goal. But I feel like it has to happen fast.
It does.
Because anything that you love that you want to make into a movie, if you don't jump on it, somebody else will do it. Like Ron Howard is doing. How long have I been talking about Galapagos?
A long time.
And Ron Howard has a Galapagos movie that I think premiered at Toronto that's coming out soon, with an insane cast that plays all the people. But yeah, there's this story of these people who went. It started off as this couple that fled Germany in the early Nazi days and went to the Galapagos Islands, try to create a new, to basically just live in the wilderness, be self-sustaining. The guy was a big Nietzsche fanatic and wanted to will to power essentially and have dominion over the land and their own lives. And then these other people followed them and they created this weird little society. And of course, in this weird little society on this island, there was mayhem and eventually potential murder. So it's going to be a good one. I know the story. I've read all the books. I've watched all the documentaries. Can't wait to see that. But long story short, Ron Howard did it. I didn't do it. I'm mad about that. I was in conversations with the documentary people to do the rights. I had people wanting to make this with me, and it just didn't happen. And there's never an excuse. That it just didn't happen it means you just didn't push hard enough. So I'm calling it out on the podcast. If the Metropolis rights are available, if Sam Esmail, the Mr. Robot dude, lost the rights to it, Metropolis, I'm coming at you. 2025.
Okay.
What
Be
other
interested.
What other movies are we looking forward to in the next year? What can people look forward to on this podcast for season
Beatles.
2, 2025?
Beatles.
Is that coming out next year? They haven't even shot it yet.
It says it's so. There's one documentary, and then there are 4 different, like, what are they called?
Episodes.
Biopics.
It's like biopic.
I think it's like 2 separate projects completely. So there will be Beatles in there, for sure.
There will be some Beatles.
There definitely has to be some Jacob Elordi in there. There will be. I just know it.
Well, yeah, he has Oh Canada, the Paul Schrader movie.
I'm so excited about that.
That'll be good.
Yeah. God, I love Jacob Elordi.
28 years later.
Oh,
I will
yeah.
be lining up to see 28 years later.
Okay.
And that's it. I feel like we thought we were going to pick up and say more, but we've realized it's really hard to pick back up onto a podcast.
We also don't know what we left off on. We didn't watch.
There's not really a good transition point. I feel like we went through the year. I feel like we did this year a good service.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
we talked about our top 5, we talked about our honorable mentions, we talked about the things we didn't see that we still need to see. We talked about what we're going to see with the remainder of the year. We talked about kicking off the next season and the next year. And those of you,
sappy.
we got sappy several times. This is what happens to me when I don't sleep enough. Solo moviegoers out there, we are excited to come back, talk to you stronger than ever with some rest in a new year. Keep seeing movies alone. Keep loving movies. Movies are in a total resurgence. Everybody said the movies were dead in 2020. We're here 2024 going
Everyone
into
is saying
2025.
movies are back.
Movies are back. Shut up, car. Movies are back. Movies are back big. We're going to do our part to keep talking about the movies, keep the discussion going, keep making movies, and we hope all of you have a lovely holiday season and see some solo movies and come back to see us on season 2. Peace.
Ooh. Swag money YOLO.
Out.